Hello there, my followers of darkness, Jedi, Sith, smugglers, outlaws, bounty hunters, all over across the galaxy that we all know and love, far, far away. Welcome, as you have known from my intro, welcome to another Lord of Shadows review. As I'm always, say I'm your host, Lord of Shadows, your good old LOS. And here with me this time is one of my most charming associates, fellow members of the Shadow Council. Please give a big shout out to
Film Review Central. I thought you were going to do it for me, but I'll introduce myself. No, thank you very much. As always, Mr. Shadows, our fearless leader, thank you very much for having me on the show.
Like always, you're more than welcome, like everyone else. So, boys and girls, force users, vergers, or whatever, here we are. The last week was very memorable, so the time has come to finally talk about, I would say, one of the most controversial Star Wars TV shows ever created, The Acolyte. Oh, yes. The Acolyte. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, basically, The Acolyte, it is set in the final days of the High Republic, 100 years before the Phantom Menace, and 100 years later, when all this like High Republic basically was set. If you don't know which what I'm talking about, the High Republic is basically an era which, of course, as I said before, it's like set 200 years before the Phantom Menace, the time of of galaxy where basically the galaxy was at peace with with the Jedi being kind of like almost like an Arthurian, basically going around trying to explore new planets, new places, new galaxy, all the way across the galaxy, trying to help everybody and so on and so forth. With many different obstacles, dangers, and everything. And all that starts with the novel Light of the Jedi. By the way, if you didn't read the novel, try it. It is really good. But anyway, here we are talking about the final days of the High Republic, which is, of course, is the Acolyte now. To kind of invite you to the premise of the show, it is basically, like I said, set in the final days, where basically an old Jedi Master basically confronts a former Padawan from the past, committing murders all over the galaxy, with some Jedi's being murdered and all that. So it's all up to them to discover this like big mystery going in the shadows. I kind of paraphrase it here, but you kind of get the point. Anyway, now, how do you wish to start all this?
It's as you said in the intro. It's one of the most controversial Star Wars shows
Yeah,
of all time. Really. Obviously, it's been 5 years since we've had a Star Wars movie. Disney has acquired Lucasfilm and have been making TV shows for their streaming platform. Um, I have no problem with that. I have no problem with the shows they've gave us. But something about the Acolyte just got people's, you know, really against it. And I do lean into that massively. What I don't lean into, and this is kind of where I want to share, is that I'm more on the negative side of the show. But there is no way that I will represent my opinion in a ways that, you know, you've seen firsthand, and that's things that will not be addressed here, and unless you want to bring them up. But in terms of the content of these, you know, of what was said, but for me, it's all about, I love movies and TV shows simply because it's crazy to me the fact that we could watch a project, a piece of media, literally the same thing, regardless of where you are in the world, and you can have different opinions on it. Opinions is what the makes the world go round. It leans on experiences and opinions, and it's so nobody should ever feel judged or opinionated by the fact that somebody goes, well, there's however many people who hate the show, you've got to hate the show as well. I definitely can't say I hated the show. I disliked it, and that's kind of my overview. I dislike the show. I have problems with it, but no way will I disrespect somebody's opinion or knock someone's opinion if they really loved it. And for me, that's really my issue with the way that the Acolyte's been represented and kind of reviewed week to week. We've had 8 weeks of this, or 7, sorry, because the first two episodes came out together. But it's been 7 weeks of non-stop hatred, and that's not right. But we'll get into the specifics about why I dislike the show, my problems with it. But there's no way will I ever attack somebody for liking the show, and that's really what should happen. But I think it has been brewing. I think a lot of people have been negative about Star Wars for a long time. But and everyone will say, well, because I'm passionate about Star Wars. I love Star Wars. It's my childhood. There's a there's a moment when you cross the line from just being passionate and being plain rude. And obviously that won't be the case here. I too love the Star Wars projects. There's some fantastic ones. They're amazing. But well, it's going to be an interesting conversation. But I just wanted to present that as sort of an opening statement, that fact that we could be negative, we could have different opinions. It's just never ever going to be, disrespected. Somebody's disrespect just because they liked something that a lot of people don't like.
Couldn't say it better myself. Seriously, yeah. I mean, like this show, it is swallowed in controversy ever since, like I think, like it was announced. Basically, like basically, I think like the main flaw of the show was always that it was destroyed by the publicity. I think that was the main problem. Why it was destroyed? Why people attacked it and everything? And like there's a different. I mean, before we just jump to the main review, I just want to say there's a difference to have like an actual opinion, kind of like or in this case, like having a negative opinion. There's a difference to have like a negative opinion than just simply being a pain in the ass. Okay, they're just simply being toxic, just simply being, aggressive and like, going around attacking people and insulting them and everything. Like, like, yeah, like we're like, you're not a true Star Wars fan. Like, we're the ones who care. There's a difference of caring. And as you said, cross the line. There's a difference. And what this show has been through, like, seriously, like, none of the people deserve that. Like, from all the way from Leslie Headland, all the way to the actors, to the people behind the crew, behind the camera, none of them deserved all that much hate. Okay, like because my rule was very simple. It was always very simple. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Go watch something else. That was always my main rule. Okay, and the crazy thing is, the one thing that sometimes really gets me annoyed is that when someone else like loves something, the other party basically, they're basically attacking them because they're loving something they don't. And that's also a big problem I have. Like, I mean, that's one of the things that unfortunately Star Wars has become like, for many years. I would go as far as say ever since like The Last Jedi. I think like that The Last Jedi was the thing that started all this.
I think it was the Disney acquired,
No,
and it felt like it. I
no,
think
because the thing
look,
is,
I think Force Awakens was appreciated, but Force Awakens was so safe.
the
Rogue One
only
was good, but then it's like Last Jedi. Until that, it was pretty bad.
yeah, but hear me out. Like the only things that were appreciated during the era of when it comes to Disney, the only three things that were appreciated were Force Awakens, Rogue One, and the Star Wars Rebels. Those are the only three things that were appreciated. After The Last Jedi, everything just simply went down the hill. Everything just simply became toxic and divisive, and and also like one of the main problem is people sticking to legends. That's the thing, like you like they think like every single thing in the new canon should be based on legends. Time out. Like let basically like like when George Lucas sold to Disney Lucasfilm in 2012, like canon became his own thing, legends the other thing, and like why can I just simply other people like basically create a new universe of Star Wars, like why everything has to be based on legends, all because they had good material. Time out. Even legends had bad material. Okay, and one more thing, actually about George Lucas, actually the only thing what you consider canon,
Go on.
movies and TV shows. That's the only thing you consider canon. Not the books, not the comic books, nothing. Just the movies and TV shows. So everything else that was created outside of that were just simply ideas of different storytellers. The way, like ideas that in ways that they wanted to expand the Star Wars universe. Just saying, those came from words like from George Lucas and Dave Filoni himself. When it comes to talking about George Lucas and and his own visions. But anyway, let's go. Anyway, we're getting off the subject, because because we're gonna get into more heated territory. This was just our own kind of like intro rants. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so as explained before, the Acolyte, it is set in the final days of the High Republic, 100 years before the Phantom Menace, and you have this kind of murder mystery going around that is centering around like this Jedi Master, encountering a former Padawan, and they all get stumbled up in this murder mystery that also has something to do with the dark side powers rising from the shadows. So I want to go. So before I go, usually I never like to go first because I wanted to hear other people's opinions. So I want you start first and saying your overall thoughts of the Acolyte.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, can I just say, I think what this show represents is it. Like I said in the beginning, it's been brewing, and especially in the TV section, this negative opinion on Star Wars, particularly in the TV shows, element and side of it, was poor. I think if you look at the slate of Star Wars shows, you look at what we've seen so far from them, the only thing for me that's 100% definitely worked is The Mandalorian and the animated stuff. And that's just a personal opinion. And that's a personal. And Andor, sorry.
That's
And
fair.
Andor was great. Andor was great. For me, the problem with this one is this was the first show that wasn't based on the idea of nostalgia, which sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And it was something completely drawn away from anything we've seen before. I think this highlights exactly where Star Wars and Lucasfilm is going wrong. I think there's so many negatives as a show. I think they really need to start thinking about, okay, take a step back. What are we doing wrong here? What shows and formats actually work? I think the animated stuff, can I just say, has been phenomenal. Phenomenal. I think the animated stuff from them, Tales of the Jedi and Empire was great. And all 3 seasons of the Bad Batch was great. I think they need to start doing is looking into that. But for me, the Acolyte, it was stressful. It was painful sometimes to get through it because the show was maneuvering and almost like it was written episode by episode instead of having an over-connective story. I felt like it was just like, this week on The Acolyte, what do we write about this time? I think it changed so much. I think the character development changed based on the morals of where the characters were. And it's like, okay, but it completely flipped their morals. I think the performances were fine. I think there were some decent performances in there. But the biggest thing for me, and this is Disney again, they're posing Jedi as the villains, as the evil ones, and it's an interesting take. But I just think this idea of putting the Jedi, it's like what was the green one called? Master V something? What was her name?
Venestra.
Venestra.
Jedi Master Venestra Raw or something. I mean,
Yeah,
I know her from the books, from the High Republic. Venestra, it was like RWOH. I know how to pronounce that. When Venestra Raw or Rue or something.
Yeah, I mean, she played her part, and that was that made sense. But the only thing that I can really remember her from, and we're allowed to go to spoilers, right?
Yeah.
We're allowed to go to spoilers.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, guys, we're going full spoilers on this one. I know, we're already I know that it's been maybe 24 hours since episode 8 came out, but I'm warning you guys, I'm warning you guys and girls, we're going full spoilers here. Even though I know that a lot of you don't give a shit because, like, you hate the show, but I'm gonna still say it. We're going full spoilers here. Okay, so
Good.
go ahead.
I mean, for the longest time, the only thing that I can really remember from her character was that she was sick when she went through hyperspace. Like, it just doesn't make sense. I just think this idea of giving Jedi like personalities work and fine, but it's not funny. It isn't. It just isn't. Like the fact
Can
that
I
you're a
say
Jedi.
something? Can I
Go
say
on.
something?
Go on.
I think that the reason, I'm sorry if I'm stopping you right here. I'm sorry, but I think that the reason why I didn't like it is because, like, we were not familiar with the books of the High Republic. Because I do remember from the novels or in the comic books, I'm not quite sure. I have to read them again. But there were parts in the High Republic in the books, basically, where this, like, problem with the hyperspace that she had was already revealed. So I mean, again, I get your idea. I get your idea because, like, you haven't read the comics, you haven't read the novels. I get it. For you, that was like strange. But for me, it wasn't strange because, like, again, I was like, oh yeah, like I remember from the High Republic, like the early novels and books and everything.
But even if I did know that, even if they made reference to that, it still wouldn't have changed the fact that that's the only thing that was attached to that character. She didn't do anything, and then
in the
until the end.
Okay. In the show, I get it, but in the books, trust me, she did a lot of things.
Which is great. That's great, and adapting that to the books, and that's what you want to do. That's fine. I don't mind that. But for me, that was her only character. It's like Obi-Wan did like flying. We knew that, and it was kind of used as a bit of a joke. That's not even mentioned in it. So it was just little things like that. It was so basically written. The idea of like Osha and May, and they could have done so much better with the way that, like, one of them wanted to be a Jedi but couldn't. One of them was on a bit of a Sith path, and then it swapped over, but then it sort of didn't. I just think they were just making up as they were going along. Master Soul was not likable whatsoever. I'm so glad he died. Because there was just nothing about his character that was even remotely like if a Jedi makes mistakes, like Obi-Wan made them. Obviously, Obi-Wan makes mistakes, and that show what that did really well was that idea of grief and the fact that, oh my god, I've just created like Anakin Scott, Darth Vader here. But that was good. That was great because you impact the grief because you knew that he generally did care. But this one, I didn't like him. So I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered if he's like affected or not. It's just he wasn't a likable character at all. Basil, that was annoying. Like, don't get me wrong. Like all these cool creatures, fine with that. Like the Wookiees.
I'm sorry, it's the Ewoks all over again. It's the Ewoks and Jar Jar Binks all over again.
But the fact is, you understood Jar Jar Binks sort of, and then the Ewok things. But the biggest thing, the problem with that was you could have all these characters like Wookiees, like Chewbacca, right? Chewbacca says something, Han Solo immediately responds, so you can kind of go, "Oh, that's what he meant. Like, that's what he was saying." Seriously, this animal was just making noises, like, and like nobody was really addressing it. And they were like, "Yeah, what?"
Okay, time out. What about the fucking Ewoks? No one could understood them. And he was like,
Leia. But the way that Leia was like interacting with them, you sort of got that was the comedy. That was the fun bit. It was like, wait, these things are taking Leia to like somewhere, and Han Solo's there looking at them going, "What the hell?" Like there was payoff because you did understood them. They were a bit weird, but this one was just making noises, and you were like, "Yeah, what?" Like just honestly, the villain wasn't actually the proper villain, was it? He wasn't the bigger. There was no big overview villain, weren't there?
Wait, you're talking about spoiler. You're talking about Chimera.
Yeah, is that the one? Because there was ones at the end where he was like creeping behind corners and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, I want to talk about him, but like later on, if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But I'm just saying, like that could have been a really. That was just teased too late. If they teased that a bit earlier, that would have been quite cool. But we had this guy who just bathed Oh my god, it's
Why
like got a
is
six pack.
everyone fucking like? Why is everyone
No,
shitting on his bathing
I just,
scene?
I
Seriously.
just, I, I just think every single big reveal, every single like cool moment that a lot of people, if you were solely massively invested with the show, like we've seen with others, you'd be like, "Oh my god!" There was no reaction. It was just plain and simple, like, "Okay," and that's how I felt every time.
Okay,
Like
fair enough.
his reveal as a Sith. Okay, whatever.
I
What
want to
does
ask. Wait, please. I have to ask you
go
this.
on?
But remember where you stopped. Remember where you stopped.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, when the stranger first appeared, at the beginning, the
They
Jedi,
didn't even give him a
fulfill
name.
the dream
They
and
didn't.
all that speech. Which, by the way, I just want to say that was a badass Sith speech. But anyway, uh, when this character appeared with the helmet and everything, did you have a theory who could that be behind the mask?
Yeah, I knew it was them. I knew there was because there was nothing. There was
Now,
no
be
reason for him.
honest. Be honest. Did you
No,
always suspected
no.
him?
Yeah, because there was no reason for him to be there of a reason. He was just there. He was holding something back, and you're like, yeah, whatever. Like there was no scene where it was like him with May. So you were just like, they were obviously close. He owned a shop. And I was like, but then he decided to carry on with her. I knew there was something up with him. But it was just like, okay, whatever. So
Oh,
yeah, a lot of it was just okay. A lot of it was just okay. Right, can I say positives? Amazing action sequences. Then
oh
fight
yeah.
scenes, amazing, fantastic. Some of the best since Revenge of the Sith. Seriously,
Exactly, like
I'm
oh my god, the
so
lightsaber
so
duels, the lightsaber
unbelievable.
duels are one of the best ones I've ever seen. Like they're rivaling like the prequels when it comes to the lightsaber duels. They're
Oh yeah,
rivaling the
oh
prequels.
yeah,
Like
because
you
the
can
prequel,
definitely see what
yeah,
Leslie Headland is doing.
all three prequel movies had iconic lightsaber duels, like the Phantom Menace with the one at the end with Darth Maul and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, and then you had the arena battle in Attack of the Clones, and then obviously you had Mustafa's battle, and then Yoda and Palpatine.
Mm.
So that was cool. All of them were awesome, and so was this show. Like that episode five. Episode five was the best because episode five was just straight action, and I'm just like, fantastic. Like, thank God for this. I mean, I watched the first action scene, so the one in the bar, um, with Carrie Ann Moss, his character. I saw that in the cinema, so I went with one of my best friends at uni. Um, we rewatched Phantom Menace in the cinema for the 25-year celebration. It's awesome. Like, and they said, they said before the film, like, stick around for an exclusive clip for the Acolyte. So I'm like, awesome, we're going to do that. And we watched that first scene. And by the way, in the cinema, looked even cooler, and that was
Mhm.
awesome. Um, and then obviously we watched it again in the show, and it was still cool. Like, so that's a positive. Like, I could give you a positive,
Okay.
but just so much negative, so many just possible moments. Sometimes it was painful to watch. Character development was just like, oh, we'll give you this thing to do this week. So many forgettable characters as well. Like, I can't believe this was only 8 episodes because they introduced so many characters and then killed them off just as quick. And I think, like I said, I think it's been brewing. I think a lot of people have been very, very negative on a lot of Star Wars shows as of late. But the only thing that's kept them going and kept the appeal going was the nostalgia. You had Andor from a popular character from Rogue One, Ahsoka, in continuation of Rebels. You had Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, awesome. Mandalorian kind of built up its own reputation, but the Mandalorians were obviously covered in animated form. So you had all nostalgia with the rest of these shows. Acolyte was something completely different, completely new, brought off the shelf, opened up, cobwebs flew out because it was that old, and he went with it,
Okay.
and it was a fail in a lot of people's eyes.
Yeah, but there's a difference when you're already calling a failure a TV show that didn't came out yet. That's a big difference.
I don't know.
But
I was looking
anyway,
forward to it. I was looking
anyway,
forward to it. I
okay.
was looking forward to it.
My beg your pardon.
I was just going to say, I was looking forward to this show. I was looking forward to something
Fair
different. I
enough.
thought the setting of the, and when I saw that exclusive clip in the cinema, I thought this is going to be good. Really looking forward to this show. The fact that the action sequences was the best part of an 8-episode series, that's when I've got issues with it.
Okay, fair enough. Now it's my turn now. You've
Yes,
spoken
of course.
a lot. Now it's my fucking turn. Okay, so I'm gonna say it right now. And before I go to my own personal opinions, I just want to say this. Hey, all of you toxic cunts, get around. Please get around. Show me all your negativity as much as you want. I don't give a shit. Get around. Just get around and listen to those wise words I'm going to say right now. You know, just a little bit to get out of myself, out of my system. Okay. Now, anyway, but seriously, get around. Anyway, here we go. Now, my overall thoughts of the Acolyte are complete opposite of yours. Completely opposite. Like, every single character for me in the Acolyte worked. Very memorable. Like, Jedi Master Soul, including Chimera, like, those two characters are like my favorite characters in the Acolyte. Jedi Master Soul, I wouldn't go as far as say he's like one of my favorite Jedi's like ever. Like I love every single scene he was in, the dialogue, the character development, like all the way till the end. I love this guy. Like he kind of remind me, and now we're kind of going to the minefield, but like he's literally the High Republic version of Qui-Gon Jinn. Okay, I, I'm I'm saying it, and everyone else will say it to you as well. He is basically the High Republic version of Qui-Gon Jinn because ever since like the very first scene I saw him, he reminded me of Qui-Gon Jinn. Like the personality, the wisdom, the attachment that he had to Osha, the same thing that Qui-Gon Jinn created attachment with Anakin when he was little. Like there's a lot of similarities between Soul and Qui-Gon. All the other characters were great. I thought personally like the story was interesting. I thought the story was interesting. Really like a really cute Sith slash like murder mystery basically going on. I was really kind of intrigued. I mean, it wasn't like a blockbuster like masterpiece storytelling. No, it was kind of like when you see episode per episode, it was like kind of like a little bit simple, but overall, I enjoyed it. I really loved the world building overall, and I thought it was kind of cute. Like every single planet that we're in, you see like Coruscant, Randok, unknown planet. I love like those little like titles they put all the time. Like I really like that as well. And also, I mean, seeing the Jedi in their prime, before the fall, before the prequel era, seeing the Jedi in their prime, that's like I was like, that's my shit. I was like, that's my shit. Seeing the Jedi in their prime. People think like, no, the prequels were like their prime. No, the High Republic was their prime, not the prequels. The prequels was like the beginning. It was like their fall, their downfall. Anyway, like for me personally, I didn't. I dig all the characters. I like the twists. I like the revelations. Of course, the Chimera being the stranger, the Sith behind the behind the mask, or as I like to call him, Darth Smiley. Yes, I mean, come on, the fucking grin, like it's kind of like a fucking grin, okay?
It just sounds menacing. It really does. It's like he'll be the villain in Smile 2. I mean, that's coming out soon, so fingers crossed he's in that.
Well, thank you very much.
That's all right.
I was kind of like between Darth Mysterio or Darth Smiley. I was like, you know what? I'm going with Darth Smiley because of the
Yeah,
because
yeah, Darth Mysterio sounds like the evil version of Rey Mysterio, the wrestler.
kind of.
Right.
But anyway, I mean, look, for once, honestly, I didn't mind that the Darth Smiley was someone we already know, was someone that was like very obvious, like oh yeah, it's definitely that guy, like which was quite Quimir. Because let's be honest, like I'll be honest, like when I saw the trailers, I already made like theories who could be behind that mask. Like my candidates were like Indara, Torben, and Quimir. Those three were like my candidates. Who could
Okay.
be behind that mask? And as I was looking at the pictures more and more, I kind of realized that he has to be a man. So kind of like Indara fell off the list, especially after like Osha. Especially after May basically killing her right at the beginning. It was like okay, she's off the list. So I was like, okay, maybe Torben and Quimir. Then Torben got killed, or more precisely, he killed himself. And like okay, he's off the list. So like Quimir is the only one left. But the one thing I was trying to say, because I was really curious to see how the like was your primary was he actually a primary suspect? Because the first thing kind of made me suspect about him, like it wasn't just simply his personality, his behavior, but the guy also quoted part of the Sith code, which was peace
So
is a lie.
can I just say, you
Okay,
are one of the most intelligent Star Wars fans that I know, right? You are. The
thanks.
fact that you and I'm not, like, so we are opposite ends of the spectrum. If both of us, if because no, I just watch it from face value, and obviously I love Star Wars, but I don't look back into all of it. But if both of us is working that out, that's not a that's not a well done to you, and that's not a well done to me. That's also poor. The fact that they're not even intelligent enough to twist it up. I knew Indara was going to come back in some way because Carrie Ann Moss is a great actress, and that's a heavy hitter to be like just chucking in one scene,
I mean, she look. I
regardless
mean,
of
she had some
whether
really great moments in the flashbacks. Okay, she had some great moments.
yeah, she was fine. She was fine. But I mean, so I knew she was going to come back in some form, but I definitely knew she wasn't going to be a Sith because that would have been bad. That would have been poor. I think
But
personally.
hey, seriously, I mean, Trinity being a fucking Sith Lord, or in this case, Sith Lady, I would pay good money to see that. I mean, come on,
Yeah, it would have. Yeah, it would
she
have been
would have
all
been
right,
fucking intimidating.
but it's just like he was menacing, and obviously, like you said, I agree with the speech. I think the speech was quite good. The speech was good, but
Yeah, but I
he
will
did.
say this. I want to say this in Quimir's defense of like him being the masked Sith. Okay, first and foremost, uh, let's go back to the era of the prequels. Okay, let's go back to the era of the prequels. Let's go back to the prequels and the Clone Wars. Okay, everybody knew that Palpatine was Darth Sidious. Okay, we all knew it was him. The voice, the chin, the personality, like the actions, we all knew it was him. So that's why, personally, for me, I didn't mind that finally, after so many years, we got a character that like, oh, it's obvious, like it's this guy. Like I didn't mind it because it was the same thing with Darth Sidious. Okay, it was the same thing with Palpatine. We all
But
knew
it's
he was the Dark Lord himself. Like we all
but
knew
it's
that. It
okay.
wasn't any
If we all
secret.
knew it, if we all knew it, that's fine. But then it's what happens after that, and then after that was unbelievable. After we find out the reveal, we find it halfway through the second half of it. It was just like, yeah, okay, like we've got a villain, but he's trying to manipulate other villains. I'm like, no, you just be a villain. You just be the villain of the whole show. And then he's trying to like he ditches May and then prefers Osha. Then you're thinking like, oh, Osha's gonna like, May's gonna become some part of the Jedi thing, but she didn't. And then Osha, then like is sort
Kieran,
of.
Kieran,
It's just
you,
it was painful. It was painful. It was just
Kieran, let me. Okay, Kieran, stop. Let me try to explain. He revealed himself at a time where the Sith were supposed to be in secret, in the shadows. Like the main revelation was in the Phantom Menace. So by that time, like he knew that like if May is gonna like get herself like like basically what's the word I was looking for? Turn herself in to the Jedi and basically explaining everything. If that actually wasn't the case in Episode 4, but the point is that he knew that he was gonna have to kill her because before she could actually expose him. That there
no, that
actually
made
is
sense.
a Sith
No,
out
that
there.
made sense.
Like try to think. Try to think, like, also one of the reasons why I knew, spoiler if I'm going that in that direction, why I knew Saul was gonna die, because he was the last one who knew that Chimera was a Sith, and if him
Yeah,
with
but that
him
was
gone,
fine. I was happy he died.
yeah, because like that's why I'm saying, like, also because also kind of gets a part of, like, people saying, oh, it's breaking canon. No, it's not. No, it's not.
No,
Like
that's what
everything.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that I think he was just a wasted villain because he didn't
I
do
don't think it was
much.
wasted.
I think he was. I think he could have been a lot better. A lot better.
I mean, if you're going to that episode 6, where basically he was like talking to to Osha, like in a very calm, like friendly way, that kind of makes you think, like, oh, they could be lovers or something. I'm sorry, but that's
No.
like old school Sith manipulation. Like that,
Yeah,
trust me, there's a lot of Sith who will seduce their future apprentices that way.
he was cool at the beginning. His fight scenes were cool. That was great. They're just all average. It doesn't matter if you're Sith, Jedi, the story, everything was just plain, simple, average. It was an average show from beginning until the action sequences came in. Everything was just so under par, and that's what was it was disappointing. The show
You
was
don't.
disappointing.
Okay, time out. Okay, if you're like, don't tell me you didn't feel anything when Jackie and Yor died. Come on.
Oh, in episode 5.
Yes. Come on. You
Yeah,
felt
yeah,
something.
that was sad. Yeah, that was sad. But it was just
But
okay.
that's
No,
also
that's all.
one of the things I like, because, like, Leslie Helen didn't pull any punches, like, kind of like she done it in kind of like a Game of Thrones style, where basically, like, she's killing off characters, like, without any, like, thinking once or twice, like, like, what, I'm gonna kill this, like, young apprentice, I'm gonna kill Yord, basically making viewers afraid of, like, basically, like, every single minute of every single episode, kind of like thinking, like, okay, something's gonna happen to this character, something's gonna happen to that character. Like, I
Ep-
love that.
Episode 5 was a standout episode. That was easily, if I did a ranking of all the episodes, that would be so. It would be 10 tier number one, absolutely. But it was just the rest of the show couldn't live up to that.
Also, speaking of, I'm sorry, speaking of the fights, I just want to say one more thing. Sorry. uh I love the addition of martial arts. I love the
Yeah,
addition of martial arts, because the thing is, what the reason why I love, because some people think it's stupid. It's not stupid, because the reason why I love it is because it adds to, like, the Jedi, or even the Sith in this case. Like, they're not just simply, like, they don't simply use their lightsabers. Like, they actually have some, like, hand to hand combat skills. Because in these situations you need to have them. Like, if you can reach your lightsaber, or if you're without, like, you need to know, like, some kind of a hand to hand combat. And that's why I love that Leslie Helen added some martial arts in the fights. Like, you basically, you can see that the Jedi are much more capable than just simply swinging a lightsaber or using the Force. You know, so that's one of the things I really like. And also one more thing that I know you're gonna go like this, basically. I didn't mind the twins. Okay, I thought Osha and May were interesting characters. I thought, like, they were interesting, like, one being the light, one being the dark. And I do have to praise the I can't remember her name, but, like, I have to praise her performance. It's like, playing two different persons, even though they're twins. I
yeah,
really,
that's
I
really
really
difficult.
what
That is really difficult. That is really difficult to do. Yeah,
that was really difficult. And I will say this: I praise even the little ones, because when they were playing, like, younger Ocean May, they actually got, like, actual little twins to play younger
yeah,
May and Osha. And I have to say, because a lot of people have been shitting on child actors, and I was like, for God's sake, like, give those child actors a break. Like, seriously, they're children and they're trying their best. And I have to praise the children, because they really did a good job.
yeah. They
They
were
try
fine.
their best, the best they can, being emotional, being angry, being funny, whatever. Like, I didn't, like, I was praising them, and I still, like, stick with them, because, like, I felt like their performances wasn't that bad. It was actually pretty solid. for when it comes to child actors.
Yeah, there was nothing wrong with the kid actors. They should never be like negatively affected by this. But I think the actress that played Ocean May was good. It was good, but this is what I mean. This is I keep coming back to this point. Everything was good. Everything was fine. The action sequences were fantastic. There's nothing to fault for them. I like the fact that they did martial arts. I like the fact that they used the force as well. Because there was a lot of action sequences using the force. That was good. All of that was really great. It's the other parts of it where I've seen worse. Unfortunately, I've watched a lot worse than The Acolyte. This will never be the worst show that I've watched. That is so harsh on it because, like I said, there are positives. But unfortunately, it has to be viewed as a disappointment because for me, it could have been so much better if you just maneuvered and changed little bits. If that's what if you like it for what it was, then that's absolutely fine. I appreciate that. But it's not exactly what I wanted from a Star Wars show that had a lot of hype and anticipation.
Like I said, I think like the biggest problem, the reason why people being so negative, I said before, like the biggest problem was the publicity. That was the biggest problem. And honestly, like I just want to say this because a lot of people thought that that this show is gonna be Sith centric, basically. It's gonna be like from the point of view of the Sith. But when I read like the actual summary, which I said twice already, like when I read the summary, I already imagined kind of like how the story is gonna go and what kind of a show we're gonna get. But in a way, until the very end, you can kind of say it is actually in a way Sith centric. It is in a way Sith centric because spoiler alert, in the end, the villains actually win in a way. Like if you look at it, I'm sorry, if you look at it, the Sith actually win at the end. Basically their first round all the way to the road when to the final revelation. Let's put it that way, poetically. And again, as I said, because a lot of people because a lot of people have been expecting that it's going to be like like the Sith infiltrating the Republic, basically how they came to power and how they screwed up how they screwed up the Jedi, how they didn't notice them, and so on and so forth. I'm like, okay, maybe they didn't show us that yet, but you have to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere, basically. But overall, and also, by the way, I want to ask you this: what did you follow the witches, the coven of Anasaia, and their interpretation of the Force, aka the thread?
Yeah, again, fine. I mean, they obviously covered a purpose, backstory, obviously for Osha and May. I thought the weirdest episode was when they did episode 3, when they did the flashback stuff. That was good. That was fine. Yep. That's probably my second favorite episode because
Can we all agree? Can we both agree? It was great to see a Wookiee Jedi.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, awesome. But no, specifically about this episode was, okay, that's when a lot of people's opinions changed on the show. Was episode 3, but
for stupid reasons, by the way, stupid reasons.
But I didn't mind it. I thought it was because it served a purpose. The amount of filler episodes we've seen in Star Wars shows, that ultimately some filler episodes need to happen for context, and that's great. That's fine. I didn't like the episode that they did. Was it 7? That was a really boring watch when they basically redid the same episode.
Okay, wait. Okay, stop.
Hang on. Okay. From the Jedi perspective, I felt like I was just watching. I was like, we didn't need to know this. We didn't need to know it.
We actually needed to know it.
We didn't.
Yeah, we did because
it's the same thing. I don't care what they were doing before. Then they found them, which okay, that was fine. You understood why they needed to test them.
I mean, I'm sorry, Kieran. Did you heard every single dialogue of the Jedi what they were talking about?
yeah, you understand where they're coming from, but it was just you feel like you're just watching the same episode again from a different perspective.
Yes, from
They
a
could have
different
made that,
perspective.
but they could have made that. They could have made the third episode a little bit longer and just done it in that. They didn't need to do the seventh episode.
Oh, then the episode would have been like over an hour.
We've seen that before. We've seen that before. Or
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah,
or
but if you look at the Disney Plus TV shows, that's not gonna happen.
okay, but potentially take little bits out and make it like tighter and a bit more condensed then, but see both sides. I felt like I was just watching the same thing again, and it just wasn't necessary.
Okay, fair enough. For I mean, trust me. Even though we do have a lot of disagreements in this conversation, but like, trust me, the talks with you are a breath of fresh air to me. Trust me,
Yeah,
breath of fresh
yeah,
air.
thanks.
And I mean that as a compliment. But here's the thing. Like the third episode was basically meant to be to show you the backstory, like from the witches, or more precisely, more May and Osha's point of view, and then like the Jedi basically telling their own stories and kind of like combining them, and then basically you realize like okay, whatever is what was everything going on about. But that but I see a lot of people shitting. I was like, really, like we build up all of this to like all of that to this, and I'm like, I mean, I'm seriously. Sometimes I'm thinking like, again, that's just me. But I'm like, what the hell were people expecting? Like, something about fucking massacre, like the Jedi killing all the witches, taking like kidnapping the children or something. Like, what the hell were they expecting? Like, seriously, I don't know because that's one of the biggest problems, not simply with TV shows but with movies as well. High expectations. Everyone is just simply having high expectations, like making sure that every single theory they make it's correct. Like they have to be correct. Like no, like I cannot be wrong. I have to be correct. Like like which is stupid. Like every single theory you make, you have to take it 50-50. Like it could be wrong, it could be right. You can't just even make 100% true. I'm sorry if I'm ranting a little bit. I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right.
Yeah, but the point is like people saying like people saying wait, they build up all of this to this, and I'm like, well, I was like, I don't know. I mean, I was like, you think like this was bad? I was like, for me actually, this was like actually a perfectly good reason why they covered it up. Like basically because if you look at the whole story, it wasn't simply the Jedi's fault. It was even the witch's fault. Like both sides basically turned into some kind of aggressive mode, basically. And even though like people, and even though like yes, like Saul did kill Mother Anastasia, but if you look at closely, like he did it in because she thought like because he thought like Anastasia is gonna like hurt in that moment he thought it was Osha, but it actually was May. But like like he didn't do it on purpose. He didn't do it on purpose, and he was trying to defend the child, and also at the same time you can see like that basically the reason, and also kind of like the main reason why Torben and Saul were kind of like the main thing over this catastrophe, because like Saul was acting through his emotions. Torben basically was acting selfishly because he wanted to go back to Coruscant, which kind of like makes sense. Like again, why Torben said we thought we're doing the right reason. Gloop, dead. Poison himself. And, I get it. But again, like people thinking like like oh we should have deserved more than this. I'm like, what more can you get? So overall, I felt like both point of views for me were actually. I'm not gonna say they were perfectly done. I'm just gonna say like they were just simply really well done for like both point of views, basically. And we kind of like got the whole story. Like okay, what happened? And personally, for me, what actually happened, I actually was satisfied. I was actually satisfied with what I got. Like from both sides and everything. Because if you look at closely, mostly it was Mother Coral's fault. The Zabrak witch with horns.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was
Which I
mostly
agree.
her.
I
It was
agree, and that
yeah.
and
It was mostly her fault.
they kind of touched on that in the finale. They almost sort of like blamed her, and then it was Soul the one that got all to blame. A bit like the Jedi was just like saying, well, you know, we don't, yeah, we kind of agree with his actions. So then they presented the whole Jedi. I think it was just struggling with a villain point. That's what I was trying to say, was that I felt like because they were making, because of the characters' intentions, the characters' personalities, and how they, and what they felt like, their motivations per se, it kind of then said, well, you're the villain now, and you're the villain now. It's like everybody seemed to have different views on who the villains were, but they were all on the same side.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
wait,
May
but
blames Soul, Osha blamed her mum, and then Osha blamed Soul. That's why he killed her.
no.
Uh,
OSHA blamed May for everything that happened.
And yeah. So it's almost like right, your guys are all on the same team, but you all think somebody different's the villain. It just didn't. It was messy.
Well, it wasn't actually. I mean, for me personally, it wasn't actually quite messy because I thought, because for me personally, I think you kind of understand actually what was going on every single scene, and kind of like where this was actually heading. By the way, I just want to say that scene between Kalnaka, Torben, and Soul, like that fight was just simply great, And again, seeing a Wookiee with a lightsaber, that was just simply awesome. That was just simply amazing, And like when I was watching that scene, seeing like the full or monster strength of a Wookiee, going up against Torben and Saul. And by the way, I just have to say, it kind of proves like how strong the Wookiees are, because it took like all the witches together trying to control Kalnaka, which kind of shows you how strong Wookiees are, basically, and I was thinking like, man, I would really wish to see a Sith Wookiee right now. Like if a Jedi Wookiee was monstrous, how the fuck would have been a Sith Wookiee? Seriously, you know.
Yeah,
And but anyway, I like if you have to blame somebody, I'm sorry, I have to say Mother Coral, because she's the one who started the fight. She started the
yeah,
whole.
absolutely. No,
Yeah,
I agree with that, but carry that on, carry that opinion forward. Soul kind of got all the blame. I didn't like the character. I thought he was quite.
yeah,
I thought,
because
bit,
the thing is, the point that the reason why Vanessa actually blamed all of this on Soul is because they were trying to cover up they're basically Jedi affairs, basically, let's just put it that way, which kind of also was the symbol of like how the Jedi were basically what's the word I was searching for. It's kind of like basically the point of that scene was like why they were trying to cover up, why they actually had all this to blame on Saul, is because that little like that what's the word, like uh basically, let's put this way: the passage towards the Jedi Order in the prequels has started. Like basically the road all the way to the prequels with what Vanessa did has basically started. How like from
yeah,
the High Republic Jedi Order was, how they ended in the prequels. If you understand what I'm trying to say.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like because the thing is, I always thought in the Acolyte, Vanessa basically she was basically the High Republic version of Mace Windu. Like like a guy, like a Jedi going by the rules, also kind of like very political and all that, so it kind of like it kind of like basically that's like the side of that's like how I saw Vanessa as a character, kind of like Mace Windu. Also speaking, I just wanted to ask you that, I just want to tell that for actually for a long time. You said the problem was how they depicted Jedi as being evil.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, Kieran, let's go back. Let's go the Clone Wars, the prequels, Tales of the Jedi. There's a lot of moments where the Jedi are depicted as evil, like when
right.
it comes to their actions, because the thing is, the Jedi Order, like just like Leslie Headland actually showed. The point I'm trying to show you is that the Jedi Order, like just like Leslie Headland, just like George Lucas, they were trying to show their the agenda that the Jedi have, but also what they're trying to say is that the Jedi were never perfect. Like from the prequels to the Clone Wars, the High Republic to the Old Republic, like they were never perfect. Like they had a goal, they had an agenda, they had a dream, they had yeah, basically, but they were never ever pure. They were flawed in their own way,
Yeah, but they
so
were
and that's
flawed. But they were flawed, but there was always one symbol of hope of what they were doing. It's a matter of opinion, and that's the idea behind it, is that you
yes,
follow
yes, but
which side
it
you want to go on.
depends.
But they always maintain this idea of Jedi are these people. Jedi's are the most interesting when conflict is going on, because you see a clear difference between who is right and who is wrong, because there's people that want to kill, there's people that want to save, and Jedi with saving more. Jedi's for me only work in the times of conflict, not in this moments where they have like a matter of
Yeah, but
opinions.
the,
I
the
think
thing.
the problem is with the Disney lot, the Disney direction they take it is Jedi and this, Jedi and that, and it all seems to revolve around this idea of negativity. They made they made Luke's the reason why nobody liked the Last Jedi was because the coolest Jedi. I watched The Last Jedi with my family, and my
Okay,
dad and uncle.
okay, I had to
Hang on,
stop you there.
hang on. No, hang on. My dad and uncle said that I hated the way they did Luke Skywalker, because Luke Skywalker was cool,
Okay,
and now they made him as an old, boring individual. They're just making cool ideas of Jedi be just the most negative people in the world, and then they're applauding Siths for what they're doing. It's a completely different switch. Nobody likes it.
okay, time out. Okay, how can you expect after 30 years since the Return of the Jedi? How can you expect Luke Skywalker being the same as he was like 30 years ago?
He was
Like
boring. He was
the guy,
boring.
look at me. The guy, listen to me. Like the guy, like he achieved everything. Like he became who he is. But like he based the reason why I love the Last Jedi is Luke Skywalker like portrayal is because it showed him that that like basically that even a character like him has flaws. Even a character like him, can have like a dark side or something. Like not everyone is perfect, because the reason why people were saying that's not my Luke Skywalker, because they put like that he's gonna be perfect. Like even in Legends, Luke Skywalker wasn't perfect. Even in Legends, he had flaws. When he got older and older. Like let me give you an example. George Lucas' Star Wars sequel trilogy, his own version that he wanted to do before he sold it to Disney. Trust me, it's not that different from what like the sequel trilogy was. It wasn't that different. Like even in his version, Luke Skywalker would have went into it would have like went into exile and leave everything behind. So basically like because just like Leslie Hedlund was trying to show, and George Lucas was trying to show, because like none of them like because Leslie Hedlund didn't want to like he like some people were saying Leslie Hedlund wasn't screwing up like the Jedi's legacy and what they were trying to represent. But the point I was trying to say is that every single Jedi, every single character, it all depends on each their own like actions, because every Jedi is different. you know, Kiadi Mundi is different. Mace Windu is different. Obi-Wan is different. Yoda is different. Yaddle is different. Dooku is different. Ahsoka, Anakin, Shakti, Luminarum Duli, and our Chris, Banestra. Like every single Jedi, like are judged because of their own actions. Every single Jedi is different, basically. And that's where all this point of view happens. Even Obi-Wan in Return of the Jedi, he did say that everything that we do is based on our point of view. I'm sorry. I'm just saying facts. I know you're
Yeah,
annoyed. I know you're bored with what I'm
no,
saying, but
no. It's just my opinion. Is that they depict Jedi now
no, 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 no. I'm
in
not
the
arguing
in
with
the
you. I'm not arguing. I'm just
you
saying
don't
my,
even let
my
me finish. You don't even let me finish my point.
sorry.
That's the frustration, is that the Jedi are depicted as flawed. That's fine, but they're negative, and they are viewed as the villains because they only work. Their whole motive and mission is only because they're not in conflict. Once they're out of conflict, it's like, well, you're wrong, and you're right. It's opinions in that is the same way as the real world. The opinions are what makes the world go round. But the Jedi only work in times of conflict, because in times of conflict they have a clear reason for why they're doing it is to save people,
Mm.
rather than when they're not in conflict. That's when they are flawed, and Disney are doing too much of that. They're leaning that into that idea far too much, and that's what people are, and it's ruining the reputation of the idea of the Jedi as good people. Because whether they're flawed or whether their opinions are different, whoever it is, they have the common goal of saving people's lives. And the people that see, when you've seen with Anakin, Count Dooku, like Osha now, is that they go from seeing the good side of everything to, and then but twisting it onto the bad side. But and that's fine. That's character development. That's character growth, and that's great. But for me, they never ever work when they're just going around because they're just viewed as flawed individuals. That's the way that they're written.
Mm. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, Ahsoka has flaws, like, and she's been through a lot. I'm just saying.
I'm not saying that they can't have flaws, because they act on their flaws, and they act and their opinions change. But for me, I just think the way that they're written is so negative. They're almost viewed as, right, you're villainous, or you're wrong, when they're not. They're not wrong. They just have a different opinion, but they're written as to be the villains, while the Sith are being viewed as like they're right. And I'm like, it just happens far too much.
Well, if I have to quote like Yoda, he said that the dark side is like more faster, more easier than than, for example, the ways of the Jedi. You know. But anyway, I want to ask you one thing, because now we're going to the canon thing, where basically people are thinking, oh, it's breaking canon. What did you thought of the idea of the virgins, like, the way how the twins were created?
Um, I mean, it worked for the story, and it worked for the idea of like the mystical, because they seem to be doing these witches storylines quite often. So they're just following what they've done previously. They seem to lead into that. So I wasn't. It was just an aspect of the show that you got to get behind, because at the end of the day, the whole point of the show was these twins that wanted to be reunited, and they were being viewed very differently, and obviously Osha didn't know about May until May came back and sort of then put her on the firing line for murder. And so it didn't I didn't the backstory, they could have come from anywhere. They could have just been general normal twins. It didn't They're just leaning into this idea that they seem to be doing now, is where it's witches and Sith lords. They're your villainous people.
Well, the thing is that you have to say, the one thing I also is known for, Star Wars is known for many different versions. Like, for example, you have that cave in Dagobah. You had the Anakin's lightsaber that Rey touched. You know, Anakin himself, like, there's a lot of different versions in the galaxy. You know, and like May and Osha, are just simply like one of them, basically, because the way how which I thought personally was interesting, like, that they're like Osha and May are the same person, but they were like, divided in two parts. Like they're not actually twins, which I thought like it was interesting. I mean, uh, like the show itself, when it comes to that part, it gave us like some answers, but in the same time, it gave us also some questions, which I think like Leslie Helen was trying to plan, like, like, oh, like this will be kept for like a season 2 or something, you know. But they still give us like some answers that kind of will give us an idea, like, okay, like, we kind of can assume where this is going and everything, you know, because there are a few things, and I'm gonna ask you this. There are a few things that a lot of people have been criticizing, like, when it comes to breaking canon, like, because now they're thinking that this what happened with the twins is kind of like, weakening the story of Anakin Skywalker, and I want to think what you think about it.
I think they just break canon. That's it. They do it all the time, so it's not anything new, anything different. They broke canon with Boba Fett. Boba Fett's dead in Return of the Jedi before before you watch the Boba Fett show. After you watch the Boba Fett show, it completely changes. If they're going to carry on making the Star Wars stuff, then they are going to break canon if they keep looking into it. Otherwise, they would never have touched anything and just either done a prequel like they've done with this show,
Mm.
or carry that on from the films and following it. They are going to break canon. It's nothing different, nothing new. People have just got to accept it because at the end of the day, they've done it. They've done it so many times. They'll do it again. So it's not really,
Yeah, but
massive
the thing
difference.
is, the crazy thing is that even in Legends, Boba Fett actually survived the Sarlacc pit. Like
I know, but
like
it undermines that idea at the beginning of Return of the Jedi when he falls into that pit. You're like, oh, he's dead, and then you're like, he's not now. It undermines that, but you've just got to appreciate that that's what they're going to do. If they keep swapping
yeah,
if they keep swapping, if they keep making these type of shows in canon and like do little mini stories on the overarching film plot, they've got to just go along with it because
mm.
they'll still keep doing it. They'll still keep doing it. They won't listen.
Yeah, I mean, like I told you before, like yeah, I mean, like what I was trying to say is that even Legends or canon, like none of the expanded universes, none of them are different. Like both of them are kind of like broke the canon when it comes to Book of Boba Fett's death. But also, like for me personally, I don't think like the twins thing kind of breaks the canon. I think like kind of like adds to it. Why Anakin is the chosen one. And how he was created through the Force. I so that's personally so that's I wanted to hear your own personal opinion because personally for me it didn't break. I think personally it adds to like the reason why Anakin is special, why he's the chosen one, and why he was created through the Force. Because the thing is, in Anakin was created through the Force, and the twins were created with the Force. You know, basically. If I'm not trying to like I'm hoping I'm not kind of like confusing you or anything.
No,
You
no,
know.
no, no. It's they've only got a limited things to do, so they have to do what's right with the show and not worry
Yeah.
about anything else because nobody will ever create. It's like the MCU, isn't it? They all have different directors,
Yeah.
you know. So whatever the storylines are in the other stuff, you've got to appreciate it in the film and on the sole project only. You can't be like, oh, no,
Fair
we can't
enough.
do this, but yeah, it is what it is. They're limited in what they can do. So adding that in was what made the show, what made Osha and made that reveal at the end. So if they you wouldn't have had any uniqueness to their relationship and their background if you hadn't worried about that. So yeah, they are just so limited in what they can do. So
Mm.
they're going to annoy somebody.
But the one thing that I will say that kind of also before I go to this main other subject, I just want to say that personally I liked the Coven of Anasaia. I really liked the overall like witches world, let's put it that way. Their overall like point of view of the Force. Because the thing is like the people have to understand like the Star Wars is a universe that is like filled with different cultures and clans and cults that are like they see the Force, they interpret the Force in different ways. So I appreciated what like NSA was trying to say, like kind of interpret the Force as kind of like this thread basically. I felt like that part of the Force, the mythology around the Force, I felt like it was interesting, and the way how she was interpreting it. So overall, like the Coven of the Witches, I didn't mind them. I felt like they were actually really interesting. Kind of like adds more to Osha and May's backstory in a way. Even though Mother Coral really frustrated me, but like I liked the overall little like world they had and everything. I mean, once you see the Night Sisters from Dathomir, you see everything. Basically, you
Yeah,
saw everything.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
the
it's
difference
just the
is
same
like
thing.
what
It's just the same thing over and over again. There's only so much they can do, so you just feel like it's really repetitive.
I mean, in Legends, basically there were many different cults of witches, basically, not just simply the Night Sisters.
Right.
But anyway, and also one thing I'm kind of praising Leslie Hedlund. Like in this show, like she took a lot of Legends material into canon, which I felt like it was really cool, really really cool, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, one more thing. One thing that I thought was the stupidest thing that people were bullshitting about, and that was Kia Mundi's cameo.
Oh yeah, yeah. They were just
The
ready.
big guy with the big head.
Yeah, I didn't like it personally, but it just what they were gonna because it just felt like it was like okay, let's just chuck in something somebody that you recognize, like
I think
so.
there's a reason why they put him there. I think they put him there on purpose
Go
because
on.
remember, Phantom Menace. He was the one who said, "Everyone knows, impossible. The Sith have been extinct for over a millennium." You know, I think they put him there on purpose because they was trying to show the arrogance and a dogmatic view of the Jedi, basically. You know, and he could have easily made them look, like, oh, he was part of the cover up, or he was like, he lied basically when he was talking to Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan about Darth Maul and everything, like oh yeah, we already seen some Sith before, but I'm like, shh, hush hush, you know. But like basically, I think like they put him there on purpose because it kind of showed the dogmatic view and the arrogance of the Jedi, basically, leading all the way to the prequels. That's at least the way how I see it. So I didn't mind the cameo. And also, one more fact: in canon, we never knew what age Kiadimuni was. Okay, like I mean, the only thing we know is from legends, and again, those legend material is like from from like some different games and like other like different informations, but in canon was never like confirmed.
Yeah,
Because in canon was never proved, like what age he was and everything, or even like his kind, the Syrian, how long they live. So that personally didn't mind, because the thing is, Han Solo's age and Qui-Gon Jinn was age was changed, from Legends to canon, basically.
yeah,
So if they changed it like Kelly Mooney's age, like, ooh, big deal. For me personally, it wasn't a big deal. You know. Also, before we reach our final conclusion, I want to ask you, like, if we can talk about like the shadowy figure from the cave.
yeah. Very briefly, yeah. Also, I just
Okay.
wanted to say. Also, I wanted to say this idea with the lightsabers is just getting on my nerves. Like a blue lightsaber could turn to red. That was stupid. That was terrible.
That actually was introduced all the way since 2017. The Kyber crystal bleeding.
Yeah, didn't
Because
like that. That
no,
that was
no,
ridiculous.
because the thing is, when the Sith, their kyber crystals were not like actual kyber crystals. Like I mean, because there were no, because in Star Wars lore there was never like red kyber crystals. Like basically the Sith make them through like bleeding kyber crystals. It's kind of a
Yeah.
little bit complicated. It would take us it would take me the entire day to explain to you. You
It just
know,
wasn't. It they just ruined lightsabers. The Disney led projects. They just ruined them.
I
So
think
they
I
just
feel like symbolically, like because I think personally for me it didn't ruin it because it kind of symbolically shows you like how basically you become a Sith. Basically, let's put it that way. You know. But anyway,
yeah. It
do
just
you have an
it just
idea?
undermines
Big pun.
it just undermines the whole point of like, oh, build your own lightsaber and stuff like that. It's just like, yeah, they bleed. Just yeah, it was ridiculous. There wasn't any point of the imagery whatsoever. Just felt like it was like we know you you're a Sith Lord because you just killed a man. Like it just didn't add much to me for me.
Yeah, but like again, red kyber crystals they don't exist. You create them through like other kyber crystals. But anyway,
But they could
what
have
did you
explained
like?
they could have
What?
explained that they didn't. They could have explained
Okay.
that they didn't need to make.
I think like Leslie Headland was already kind of playing through that thing, like oh, like Star Wars fans already know, like what that is, basically.
Right, right.
That's just one thing. Anyway, who do you think the shadowy figure was?
Darth Plagueis.
I mean, when you see him, I was like, that's a fucking moon. I was like, okay, that's fucking Darth Plagueis, which actually kind of makes sense why he's in there in that era. It kind of makes sense more like Darth Plagueis than Darth Tenebris. By the way, Darth Tenebris is the master of Darth Plagueis,
Okay.
which kind of also makes
Yep.
sense. Like at least like now we know who actually is the main villain overall behind all of this, which also kind of makes me think like maybe like he sent Chimera after Oshar May on purpose, maybe through the witches, like he knew how to create life through influencing the midichlorians. I mean, who knows? There's a lot of like theories you can make out of it. But overall, I'm really
Yeah.
happy with the Darth Plagueis in live action finally.
Yeah, he looked cool. He looked cool. Obviously, we only saw him briefly. I would have liked to see him a bit more, but I mean, they're hoping that there's going to be a season 2. There's serious doubts over that. So,
Well,
yeah,
I think it will. I think it will.
yeah, it's so negative at the moment. I think if it's going to be done, it needs to be done quite some time
I
away.
think the
Like, let's not.
negativity. I think the negativity won't stop it. I don't think the negativity will stop it.
They've not made a season 2 yet of something that's so overly negative. So we'll have
Mm.
to see.
We shall see. We shall see. Anyway, so with that overall, like personally, I just want to say that I really had a blast with the Acolyte. And here's one controversial thing. The Acolyte officially became my second best favorite Star Wars live action TV show that was released like until now. Like the first one going to Ahsoka. So the Acolyte is on my second place. Now you can bullshit me all you want. Not you, Kieran. I mean, like the toxic fandom on the social media. Overall, I really had a blast with the Acolyte. I really liked all the characters. I enjoyed the story. I really like the mystery elements, the Sith elements as well. So much nostalgia, so many legends elements that were thrown in. It was really great. Also hearing some High Republic elements thrown in as well, like with the hyperspace incident, like in episode 7. Overall, like I mean, don't get me wrong, it wasn't a perfect episode. Even I had some problems. Like sometimes there were slow moments, sometimes the editing was a little bit off, and all that. Like there were some problems I had. So overall, for me personally, the Acolyte, like if this is actually season 1, I would say it's a solid 8 out of 10.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. I would say it's probably. I mean, the live action. I'm going to discount the animated stuff. So it'd probably be the at the bottom for me. Big, probably very close to Mandalorian season 3 because I think that was a real drop off.
You're talking about like live action TV shows or like all of them together?
Yeah, live action TV shows because I think the
Oh,
animated stuff because you can't really, Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Empire. That's like they're just shorts, aren't they? They're very very short episodes, so you can't really base it on a live action, 40-minute show. I'd give it, like I said, it was just disappointing. It was so average, so I'd give it an average score of 5. That'd be mine, 5 out of 10.
okay. So how much did you? I'm sorry. How much did you? How what was the rating?
5 out of 10. 5 out of 10 for
Okay,
me.
fair enough. Also, one more positive I just want to throw in. I didn't mention it before. Is the effects. The effects were absolutely amazing, like movie level effects, at least for me personally.
Yeah, yeah. Fight scenes, visual effects. Some of them were a little bit choppy, but you're gonna get that. So yeah, for me,
Also,
it was fine.
yeah. Also, one more thing, and then we're gonna finish. I'm going to the defense of Basil because the reason why is because it wouldn't be a complete Star Wars if you don't have some funny creatures. And when I saw Basil, I was like, now my Star Wars experience is complete because you need to have some funny creatures in it. Again, like the Ewoks, like the Porgs, like the Jar Jar Binks, and now even Basil. You need to have some funny creatures. Funny, cute creatures in Star Wars because it wouldn't be Star Wars without them. That's
You
this from me.
you can have a funny and cute character, but you need to know what it's actually saying and not just ignore it. And just
Oh, he's a
so
tracker. He was a tracker.
the the only thing that I like called Basil is Basil Brush. That's the only thing.
Good one, good one, good one. Okay, so it's like an 8 out of 10 out of me and a 5 out of 10 of you, right?
Yep. Yeah. No,
Well,
that's true.
well, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, on my Forwards of Darkness, there was a very interesting debate that me and my friend had. So overall, we came to an end to our little Star Wars The Acolyte review, even though we did went off our subject like a couple of times, but overall we finally came to our to conclusion and rating. So here we are, all done. So all of you, you know the drill, you know the tradition with the likes and comments and all that. Like always, Laura Shadows signing off.
Film Review Central signing off.
May the force be with you, and I can't wait to see Star Wars Skeleton Crew. See you guys next time. This is the way.